Hello, you sexy beast.
Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Bacon and today we're going to be taking a look at the E-100. This is perhaps the most sought after vehicle by majority of War Thunder's player base, and there really is no question as to why. It's rare, it's powerful, it's just an absolute beast. Now of course, it is an ultra rare vehicle, available at very rare occasions, usually only in a yearly tournament that celebrates the anniversary of War Thunder's release, and the vehicle itself is essentially a lighter version of the Mouse. Development started in June of 1943 as a parallel project to the Mouse, quite obvious considering the turret cross-compatibility between the two vehicles. Now a final blueprint was drawn up and submitted by the Adler company in March of 1944, although a few months later Hitler then ordered that the development of super heavy tanks such as the E-100 and the Mouse should be stopped, or in some cases slowed down, to allow more resources to be put into tanks such as the Tiger II and more easily producible tanks that would still have more of an impact on the war effort at the time. Now the construction of the E-100 prototype did continue as it was underway at the time of Hitler's orders, so they decided to continue anyway, although only 3 workers from the Adler company were actually working on this prototype. So by the end of the war, only a partially completed hull was finished, and that was then captured by the British Army, tested, and unfortunately it was scrapped sometime in the early 1950s. So now we're going to get into a quick overview of the vehicle in War Thunder. We're going to start off with the armor. First off, on the hull, you have a 200mm thick upper frontal plate and a 150mm thick lower frontal plate, both of which are fairly significantly angled, giving them a much higher effective thickness, which can be useful when you're facing certain rounds such as ATGMs, HeatFS rounds, or APFSDS rounds. The extra effective thickness can be incredibly useful. Now the sides are only 120mm thick. You do in fact though have a layer of 75mm thick side skirts, although they can be knocked off, which will actually leave you fairly vulnerable even against SPAAs such as the Russian ZSU-57. Now the rear of the chassis is a 150mm thick plate, not exactly amazing, but it is certainly decent when compared to the rear armor of other heavy tanks at similar BRs. So now jumping to the turret, same turret as the Mouse, start off with a curved frontal plate, 220mm of base thickness, then the mantlet, 240mm of thickness, but due to its shape, in places the effective thickness can hit well above 500mm, which from some angles makes it more or less impenetrable at this BR, so not too bad there. The turret sides and rear are 200mm thick, with the roof of thickness 60mm, which will block out most machine guns, but if you face some aircraft with higher caliber guns or rockets or some sort of things like that, it is likely they will be able to pen you, so do be careful of aircraft coming in your direction. So that more or less covers the armor thickness. Just to note off some key weaknesses, certainly the sides and the rear of the hull can be fairly exploitable weaknesses, and also the shot trap on the mantlet, very similar to the one on the Mouse as it is the same turret. If you hit the shot trap on this one, it will explode downwards, certainly kill the driver and the front machine gunner, and then may also explode in and kill the turret crew as well. As for guns, your main is a 128mm KWK-44 cannon, which has access to APC-BC, HE, and APC rounds. You then have a secondary 75mm cannon, which is also a KWK-44, but this time the L36 cannon. Now, this can use HE, 2 forms of heat rounds, and also a smoke round, which I would advise taking. You also then have a 7.92mm MG34 machine gun, which does have little use due to only having 13mm of pen, although in certain situations it can come in handy. Finally, you do have a smoke grenade launcher, although it does fire rearwards, which can make it tricky to use most of the time. Of course, there are occasions where it can be used, but most of the time it's not so useful, so I would advise, again, taking a few smoke rounds for the 75mm cannon. So now with all that said and the stat card shown, we will go and jump into some gameplay in ground RB battles. Let's go take a look. So our first game is on Advanced to the Rhine, and this was actually the first ace game I got in the E-100. I started by flanking around. This was the mode where you have the enemy base and the friendly base, and as I was flanking, I came across a T-29, waited for him to get into a clear shot, and yeah, shot to the side of the turret, knocks out majority of the crew, giving me my first kill of this game. I then move along a bit, and unfortunately my squad mate in his R3 gets killed. Move around this corner, oof, T-34, shoot him in the face, and that's another kill. So pretty good stuff there, and now I decide, you know what, I'm kind of near the enemy spawn, I'm just going to reverse back a bit. I want to get a bit more distance just so my armor is a bit more effective, and as I'm reversing, I do see, just over in front of me, I see some shooting. So I get aimed up, I think, oh yeah, one of them's dead, but there's another target, so I fire, and I kill the enemy tank. But I also kill a friendly aircraft. Yeah, a BF-109K looked to be quite low flying, and I'm presuming the blast from my shell hitting and killing the enemy vehicle somehow destroyed his aeroplane. So, apologies for that if that was you. I did then go and kill an AMX-13, and then, well, this one I felt sorry for. Little Crusader AA, frantically shooting at me. I just sort of shot him with a massive 128mm shell, and he kind of died. But that was the end of that game. 5 kills, 3 assists. Not too bad. That was one of the early games I did in this vehicle. As I said, the first ace I got in it. Definitely a game I was certainly very happy with, and I actually did that on live stream, and it was pretty good. And what I didn't expect was that I would go on and get another 2 ace games without dying. Let's go take a look at another one. Now, the thing with this vehicle is I only had it on rent for 3 days. I really wasn't expecting in that time to get some very good gameplay. From what I knew, it was of course lighter than the mouse, but it was still slow, heavy, so I wasn't expecting that much. But I got a few decent games, as you can see here. Through the tree with the secondary 75, I'm able to fire a heat shell through the trees, and luckily just hit the back of that ZSU's turret, killing him. And then I turn because I see some gunfire. Oof! You thought you could shoot me, did you? Nope. And yeah, Lorraine 40T, even though that frontal plate was very heavily angled, that APC-BC round had no issue going straight through that, knocking out the crew. Once that had happened, 2 kills already, and yeah, ATGM to the face. I can't shoot. My main gun is knocked out effectively, the breach not fully destroyed, but I would prefer not to fire it. But now the gun certainly is knocked out, and I only have my secondary. Although it appears, this guy, he doesn't know about the secondary. He thinks I just have one gun. So this little BMP comes strolling out, he's going to shoot me in the face, and yeah. Your gun is out, buddy. What are you going to do? Oh, you're going to reverse? Yeah, sorry, mate. Not today. And all it takes is a single shot, hull break, crew knocked out. That's it, BMP down. I was rather happy with that one. Took a very catastrophic hit to the face, and I was still able to knock him out. Now here we have an AMX-30, fired over into the trees. Luckily, it clipped the top of the turret of the 30, went in, knocked out the crew. Another kill for me. And finally, we have a KV-2. I shoot the KV-2, I hit the KV-2, only knock out 2 of the crew members, surprisingly. Most of them survived the impact of the shell, but he is on fire. So I'm going to make the assumption he doesn't have FPE, because he continues to burn, and then he just dies. So, another ace game. That was the final kill of this game. Ended it there. Unfortunately, my spawn camping efforts were hindered by a AMX-50 Foch who was hiding behind that hill. So unfortunately, I was not able to spawn camp like a true German player. But nonetheless, was a good game. 5 kills again. I didn't die. I did take some pretty savage hits to the face, one of which was that BMP's ATGM, but I survived the game. So now into our final full game of the video on Fields of Normandy. Start off by moving down the side of the map to attempt to flank most of the enemy forces. I do think there's an enemy tank in front of me, but then another enemy vehicle starts firing at a friendly, so I decide he's more of a threat and decide to take him out first. it's a PT-76, and that was a 128mm shell. Let's face it, he didn't really stand a chance. Now, it turns out there was actually another enemy where I was looking, and while my main is reloading, I use my secondary just to get some sort of scouting shots, work out exactly where he is in the bushes. After 2 shots, my main gun then reloads. Once they have both reloaded, I fire it off, and yeah, big shell to the front of the turret, goes in, and just obliterates that crew. And then I do the same thing again. I'm reversing towards the A point to try and keep my best armor towards the enemy, get shot at, get aimed up, I see the enemy tank fire, and again, front of the turret, shell goes in, obliterates the crew. Now, moving back towards the point, I eventually get into the point, we begin to then cap the point, we do cap the point, and then we're just sitting there letting the enemy tickets drain. T-34 comes running in, spots me at the last moment, and I put a shot into the front of his hull. Again, it's a big shell, if it pens, it will obliterate the crew. Now, I then had a little back and forth with a BMP. I started off with just literally no-scoping the guy, knocking out the gunner, setting him on fire, knocking out a track. Unfortunately, due to not being in the scope when I fired, I didn't exactly know where the guy was, and he dropped smoke, which meant I couldn't exactly just see the guy. So I was firing off shots with the secondary, trying to get an idea of exactly where this dude is. Got a ricochet. After that, didn't see him so much. He's obviously repairing. So I'm just sitting there waiting. He does fire a few shots my way, but it's just a waiting game. I'm sitting here waiting. Smoke goes. There he is. Fire a shot. Track out. Fires an ATGM at me. Luckily, doesn't do too much damage, so I fire a second one. Knocks the crew out. He did set me on fire and knock out my driver, although fortunately, I am still alive. I can put the fire out, and that's all good. Then, I have a T-54 come in. He doesn't want to play nice. He decides to move in, starts shooting me up. I am on fire again, and now I'm out of FPE. Not good. Luckily for me, I ping him on the map, and it turns out in War Thunder teamwork actually exists. He drops smoke, but luckily the friendly tank on the other side of A can still see him, fires a shot, he is now dead. Thank you, M48. Thank you for your help. Teamwork is good. You did good. And that was the end of the game. I survived. Again, like the other games, I took quite a beating. But I survived the game. 5 kills, no deaths. Good stuff. So I keep talking about how the vehicle can really survive a beating and just being hit constantly by many different things when it is facing vehicles that are far more advanced and in most cases far more deadly than itself. So I thought I would pull up a clip from a live stream I did while playing this vehicle that I felt really demonstrated this. So let's go take a look at that. Oh, I guess I found the AMX. Turn, god damn it, yeah, I'm dead. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye. And he's gonna shoot me one more. No, what? What? I went for the engine, the back. Secondary. Come on, come on. I'm being shot by someone else as well. Secondary. Oh no. This isn't good. This isn't good. Whoa. Oh my god. So hopefully that clip did well to demonstrate how effective use of various aspects of this vehicle, especially the secondary 75mm cannon, can be very beneficial. The secondary gun, of course, has way less pen than the main, but it has a far quicker reload, and also, most times enemy tanks attack you, they will just take out your main gun and will completely forget about the secondary, so you can still use that fairly effectively, and even if you can't pen the enemy vehicle in any easy way, you could still possibly go for the gun barrel or the tracks, anything that would really immobilize them until more friendly tanks could come and give you assistance. So there we go. I think that more or less sums up the E-100. Turret is the same as the mouse, of course, as I have said throughout this video. The main gun's very good. The secondary is incredibly useful. Despite low pen, the fast reload does make it fairly useful. Smoke grenade launchers fire backwards. You have it, so it can be useful at times, but firing rearwards does make it a bit less effective. You don't really want to turn your turret round in a situation where you might be immobilized in the middle of a field, because then you're just going to be exposing more of your weaker armor towards the enemy vehicles. The chassis, of course, the main difference from the mouse, it is a smaller, lighter chassis designed to be a bit more mobile than the mouse, but maintain similar super heavy tank qualities. It's a bit more mobile, it's a bit quicker. The front does still have very good protection. The side skirts do help a lot against ATGMs, heat rounds, in some cases solid rounds like APFSDS, APDS, those sort of things. It can help, but if the side skirts are knocked off, you will be left, as I showed earlier with the ZSU-57 clip, you will be left very exposed to all kinds of enemy fire. So that could be a big weakness. And the rear, 150mm, you do have the engine in the way, so it's likely even if it goes through the rear plate, the engine and all that stuff will be there. And actually, talking of the engine, it's a 900 horsepower engine, I believe the same drive system that is used on the Tiger II in a 150-ton tank. So don't be expecting too much mobility from this thing. The vehicle itself, though, overall, it is very good. Would I say it is worth the current absolutely stupid price on the market? No, I would not. It is not worth that much, but if you want to get hold of this tank, it is always worth a shot in the yearly War Thunder Anniversary Tournament, where this is given out as a prize to the top few teams. Okay, so hopefully I have covered everything you would want to know about the E-100. If I have missed anything, or there is anything else you would like to know, do feel free to type your question down in the comments. I would be happy to come and try and answer it to the best of my ability. Thank you again to all of my patrons. You guys are really great at helping me keep the motivation up. Big thanks to all of you guys for your donations. If you did enjoy the video, please consider smashing the like button. Maybe even subscribe to the channel if you do. That would be massively appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.